I'd like to call the City of Apache Junction City Council meeting to order on July 18th, 2023, and ask everyone to please put your phones on silence. The invocation will be led by Councilman Peter Heck, and the pledge by Vice Mayor.
That's okay.
I reversed them.
I was going to say,
Are you okay with that?
I can do it, I'm okay.
Okay? I just reversed it. Sorry.
Yes, he's messing with me.
Vice Mayor
Yeah,
Robert.
You're not wrong.
Oh, dear. Anyway, okay, let's do the invocation. I apologize.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege of being able to gather together to discuss city business. We ask that you give staff and council wisdom and clarity in its decision-making. We ask your blessing on our first responders, our police and fire and EMS. It's a difficult time now, and we ask that you keep them safe, and likewise our military men and women that serve around the globe. And we ask also that you would keep our residents safe here during this heat wave and elsewhere around the country. Again, it's a difficult time for those that don't have the opportunity to always be in a cool environment. So please keep them safe. And we thank you for the honor and privilege we have to serve the residents of this great city. These things we ask in your name. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor Wilson,
Here.
Vice Mayor Schroeder,
Here.
Councilmember Cross,
Here.
Councilmember Heck,
Here.
Councilmember Johnson,
Here.
Councilmember Nesser,
Present.
Councilmember Soller.
Here.
You have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you. As a reminder, all items on the consent agenda will be approved with one motion. If a council member wishes to remove an item for discussion, the request must be made prior to approving the consent agenda and will be moved to new business. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I move that the consent agenda be approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Councilmember Soller,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schroeder,
Yes.
Councilmember Nesser,
Yes.
Councilmember Cross,
Yes.
Councilmember Heck,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, awards and proclamations. I have a proclamation here. Designation of July as National Parks and Recreation Month, July 2023. Whereas our parks, trails, and recreation programs are vitally important to establish and maintain the quality of life in our city, ensuring the health of all citizens, creating stronger, more vibrant, there we are, excuse me, and for the communities. And whereas parks, trails, and recreation programs increase a community's economic prosperity, increase tourism, aid in the attraction and retention of businesses, and help reduce crime. And whereas parks, trails, and recreation programs are funded to the environmental and social well-being of our community, and whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas the Apache Junction recognized the benefits delivered from parks, trails, and recreation. Now, therefore, I, Chip Wilson, Mayor of the City of Apache Junction, do hereby proclaim July as Parks and Recreation Month. Jamie.
Come on, come on.
Come on,
everybody.
guys.
He does, okay.
Get up here.
I'll just sit right here. Nice hairdo. I guess we don't need to move.
Small guys, hey, short people in front. You know, these road signs, well, this one right here, from my perspective here, it was way in front of his area. Holy shit, he's about 27 months pregnant.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to show a quick video first. But I do want to point out that tonight we had, where's our lifeguards and our aquatic staff? Go ahead and stand up, please. They are representing some of the most critical staff we have right now, teaching our kids swim lessons and giving them a safe, cool place to be during the summer. So thank you guys for taking time coming out. And then the rest of our staff that's here tonight is representing our parks, our rec, and our rangers tonight. So I did want to point out the lifeguards because they normally probably would have never stood up if I asked them to. So thank you guys.
Welcome to National Parks and Recreation Month. This year's theme, Where Community Grows, celebrates the vital role Parks and Recreation plays in bringing people together, providing essential services, and fostering the growth of our community. How does parks help a community grow? By providing generation after generation with quality events, activities, and facilities that are geared towards positive growth, both physically and socially. As you grow, we grow. From the humble beginnings of Prospector Park to the expansion of the Aquatic Center and the building of the Multi-Generational Center back in the early 2000s, to the creation of Flatiron Park in the downtown, to the now city-owned Apache Junction Rodeo Grounds, to the new dog park, and soon the addition of parks and facilities down south at Blossom Rock and Radiance in Superstition Vistas. Parks and Recreation plays a central role in growing this community. All through July, get out and enjoy AJ Parks and Recreation, where community grows.
So this was just a snippet trailer of the full video, and you can find it on Facebook, where we actually have members from our community that grew up here and are now raising their kids, and they're sharing their story of their adventures with Parks and Recreation. I do need to say thank you to Matt McNulty and to Al Bravo for putting this together. When you watch the full video, it's gonna take you back to like the 90s, where they've captured video and been able to show how long and the progression of our growth. Since 1985, the United States has been celebrating Parks and Recreation in July. And a lot of people say, why July? It's so hot. But really, July is the month where we are tasking a multitude of our resources between our parks and our pools, our programs, our out-of-school timing, that July actually is a really good fit to celebrate the hardworking professionals in Parks and Recreation. There are more than 160,000 full-time Parks and Rec professionals, along with hundreds of thousands of part-time folks. We are blessed that we have a council and we have commission board members that fully support us, and we couldn't do our job without you guys. You're out at our events. I always tell my staff, please make sure that you are, because they don't know who you are, so please make sure you're putting your best foot forward all the time, and they always do. So we do appreciate your guys' support. A large majority of our staff, including myself, we are all homegrown here in AJ. So not only do we work here, but we grew up here and we play here. And so it was really impactful that this year's theme is about where our community grows. Because it's not just about how our Parks and Rec department grows and the services we're providing growing, but how the people in our community are growing. So I can attest that the seeds that we planted long ago have grown and they have bloomed and they continue to grow. So thank you for celebrating Parks and Rec Month with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any announcements from the council?
Your Honor?
Yes.
This past Wednesday, I had the privilege of observing our police and fire departments conduct active shooter training at Cactus Canyon Junior High and the high school. Over the course of the day, the police and fire departments were presented with several scenarios related to an active shooter or shooters in these scenarios. Lieutenant Seth Painter, the SWAT commander, was kind enough to take me around to different locations to observe several of these scenarios. The speed, precision, and planning of the police department in pursuing the shooters while creating safe zones for the fire department to triage the wounded was quite impressive. I learned that a significant amount of instant on-the-scene planning and coordination is required to take down the shooters and preserve life. I want to thank Chief Pooley for allowing me to observe the training, and I want to particularly acknowledge Lieutenant Seth Painter for his willingness to escort me around the campus, provide insights, and answer my questions. It's very reassuring to know that our first responders are trained and equipped to handle life-threatening situations.
Anyone else?
Your Honor.
Yes.
So this past Friday, in conjunction with Parks and Rec, the Mesa Parks and Rec Department brought some close to 240 kids over to the Superstition Mountain Museum for Western Day. And the Superstition Horsemen's Association, in conjunction with the East Valley Backcountry Horsemen Association, put some little goodie bags together. They kind of look like mail bags. In fact, they're commemorative mail bags to kick off our 2024 Pony Express. But the kids got to have a great time. It was hot. Man, it was hot. You wouldn't tell that with the kids. They're troopers. They had lots of water, and they had a great time. They got to actually see horses up and close and personal, and you know, for some kids, they've never actually been able to touch a horse. So they had a great time, and a great way to celebrate Parks and Rec Month.
What else?
Mayor,
Okay.
Mayor?
Well, yes.
just real quick, several of the council members and the mayor attended the rededication of our animal control facilities. And if you don't know, they do a wonderful job of trying to get up stray dogs, find their families, and if they can't, they make sure they're safe, secure until they can be adopted. And it was just a wonderful day and a great job on updating the facility for the employees there who do a wonderful job. So thank you.
Okay, we got an upcoming event that's coming in next month on August 16th. And I want everyone to know about it and possibly attend. It's an ADOT meeting. It's concerning the, I'll say, opening up again of State Route 88 so that you'll be able to go up to the lakes, continue from our area. One of the things that they are looking at is they got 3 different types of, I'll say, scenarios and what the improvements need to be done. And so they're looking to the public for a public meeting to satisfy the public meeting requirements. And that's going to be August 16th from 6 to 8 p.m. And I encourage everyone to put it on their calendars and attending, and we will remind you again and be sending something out in a very near future.
Where is it at, Chip?
It's going to be at the Multi-Generation Center. Okay. City Manager's report.
Thank you, Your Honor. Bryant Powell, City Manager. As we get closer to that date, Mayor, we're going to be working with ADOT and find out what their information is on that and make sure we pass that out to the community. I'm sure Pinal County will as well. I'm very happy to be able to recognize tonight our wonderful, world-class Parks and Recreation Department and acknowledge the great work that they do and have done since 1978. We've had 2 department directors. I mean, it is outstanding to think of the leadership and the stability that allow for these seeds to grow that Jamie mentioned. So super huge thanks to Liz and Jamie and all those who are involved in leadership over there to help grow with our community as we grow. A very wise man once said, "It is much better to recreate than to incarcerate." The community's investment in parks and recreation over a long period of time, proportionately compared to other cities and towns in the state of Arizona, is significant. If you look at our budgets proportionally compared to others, the continued ability to have programs, to have events, and now potentially rodeo grounds and other wonderful facilities allows for us to germinate and create great environment of quality of life in our city. And I just wanted to add my thanks to all the team that do and are doing great things. That great man was Jeff Bell, who used to say that and remind me all the time come budget time. Brian, remember, keep that investment. So I just wanted to reflect on that a little bit today. We're also wanted to thank those that were involved at our community government job fair. It is a very unique time in terms of recruitment and retention of qualified talent. So grateful for so many great employees that work here. We make a super big effort to try to keep our staff and to be able to also recruit folks that are close by to work here. Earlier this month, the mayor, along with other staff and individuals like the fire department, Superstition Fire, AJPD, Arizona at Work, our building department, came in and we hosted at our recreation center a job fair. And to keep people fully and engaged and employed is so important. We had approximately 25 applications come in just from this one event. And then we also had over 60 to 65 attendees. So we're really pleased with this showing. I'd also like to recognize and bring to the public's attention a change over at the Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport. This year, this fiscal year that we're in now, just starting, Mayor Wilson is now the chair. And this is a ceremonial photo of the mayors and the Gila River Indian Community Governor passing the gavel to Mayor Wilson. And we look forward to his leadership there and continued partnership in an area of the far, far East Valley where more jobs and more employment are coming. And lastly, and definitely not least, we want to recognize our very own city clerk. Jennifer Pena will be sworn in as the Arizona Municipal Clerks Board President next Tuesday, July 25th. Jennifer.
You go, girl.
Yep, super proud of her and taking leadership more than in terms of everything she does, continue to do that. She's been a member of AMCA since 2002 and is currently serving as the vice president. This is an active leadership role and will reflect well in our city. For example, the previous board president was called upon to represent the profession before the state legislature. So Jennifer, thank you for your willingness to support and continue to learn. And it's such an important piece of the work of elections and our democracy. So the next part of my report, we would like to invite Ted and maybe Shane. I'll maybe turn it to Ted, and we'll have our update on discussion of public years 2023-24 capital improvement street program. Al, if you could bring that up.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This evening, Public Works would like to present and discuss the fiscal year 2023-2024 capital improvement and street maintenance plan. Shane Kiso is going to present today the information regarding the status of the streets and the upcoming capital improvement and street maintenance projects.
Good evening, Mayor and council members and staff. Shane Kiesel, Public Works Manager. So keeping with the Parks and Rec theme, you know, it's very important to have streets to get to those wonderful facilities. So I just want to make a plug and tie that in there. Also, many of you may know that our streets are the largest, essentially financial responsibility that we have as a city. It is the asset that has the greatest value to it in the whole city. So when it comes to just our streets, meaning the pavement, we're looking at $200 to $300 million. That's not even counting curb, sidewalk, gutter, bridges, all that. So you're talking about huge, significant amounts. So that's why I'm excited today to talk to you about, give you a glimpse of how we take it upon ourselves, giving it the important attention and management responsibility that we do when it comes to this significant asset for the city. So, and then also give you a peek of those projects that we have on our plan for this coming year. And I did give you an oversized map, so if you're wondering where that map came from, that was from me, because you'll see a map in the presentation today, but it's so hard to read on the screen, so that's why I gave you that oversized hard copy to take with you today. So getting going here, I usually always try to put pictures in here from last year. I think Public Works does a great job with showing what our plans are, but not really coming back to show you, hey, we got something done. So these are pictures to show you evidence that, yeah, we did get those projects done that we communicated last year. And I'll tell you which ones here that we did not get done, because my disclaimer is this is a plan. There's a lot of variables that come up that we may not get these projects done. So that's one thing I always communicate and try to impress, that this is a plan. These are the projects we're going to try to do, but there's a lot of things that come up that may push these projects back. You know, it may not happen this year. So just keep that in mind as we move forward. So again, I'll look forward to give you an overview of our condition of our streets. How do you measure the condition? I'll give you a peek at that, and then we'll get into those specific projects, and we'll have Ted, who introduced me, he'll come back too and talk a little bit more at towards the end, having to do with our capital improvement projects, our new construction. I'm more of the maintenance guy with Public Works, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about the capital maintenance of projects as we start talking about those projects. So we rate our streets on remaining service life, and we look at our streets every single year. Like I said, our street is our greatest asset, and they could deteriorate very slowly or very fast. All depends on how much rain oftentimes we get. And it was a wet winter, so we had a lot of streets that were impacted by our streets. But I'd like to say we do a pretty good job with maintaining them, and if you maintain them well, you keep them lasting a lot longer, and you get them through these wet periods of the year that we have. So in a RSL, remaining service life is 0. That is a street that's pretty much ready to be reconstructed. The pavement is shot. It's probably gone through a life of 30 to 40 years. Even though we rate 0 to 20, that doesn't mean the road will last just 20 years. If you have the more proactive maintenance, when you do those maintenance projects, those treatments, when they are needed, you could have a road last out to 40 years. So on the left side of the screen, their picture is an example, and this is Lost Dutchman up there on some recent reconstruction that we did up there recently. You could see the RSL of 0, and then we reconstructed it back up to a RSL of 20, which is a new construction. Our goal, and this is a goal that we established years ago, of our average inventory, RSL inventory of our streets. We try to shoot for a 14. This last year, we were at a 12.75, so we're doing really good. You can see last year, we increased this last year from last year, and then we really increased from 3 years ago. So we have done really good here recently with getting that up to a point where I call a sweet spot. Somewhere in between 14 is our goal. We want to achieve that. But as long as we're close to 14, when we start getting down to around 11, that's when we get complaints. And I say we, meaning Public Works. You guys get complaints. So we've learned that that's the sweet spot, that we want to try to keep that performance metric, that key performance metric in that area for when it comes to the total RSL of our inventory. Also, another key performance indicator for us is the percentage of streets that are in poor condition. This oftentimes tells a pavement manager if we're spending enough money and we're spending in the right places at the right time to keep a minimal amount of streets falling into that reconstruction, because if you have all your streets falling into reconstruction at once, you're talking about $50 a square yard versus $3 to $5 a square yard just to maintain. You could see the dollars will not go far at all if you have too much pavement go into reconstruction. So you can see we've lowered that percentage, which is a good thing on that key performance index. So we're moving in the right direction with that. We do have annual need for maintenance of $2.2 million. Currently, our street sales tax provides us about 1.7, so we don't quite have enough, thus we aren't really achieving that 14. That's why we have that reconstruction percentage is usually a little bit higher than 5, because we just aren't capturing enough of the roads before they go into reconstruction at the right time. So that's an indicator of not quite having enough money, but we have been doing great with the street sales tax. And I can tell you, if it wasn't without the street sales tax, we have HERF dollars, which is our other main dollars. That covers a lot of our fixed costs, our operations, our routine maintenance, but does not cover all of the preventive maintenance, all of the reconstruction that we need to do. So I can't impress upon you how important that street sales tax has been for us ever since the Great Recession. And our HERF dollars just haven't gone up to that proportion as it was before the Great Recession, and we don't think it will ever get to that proportion just because of the value of the dollar decreasing over time, which a lot of you have heard when it comes to gas tax, et cetera, over time. All right, here's the map that I gave you as a hard copy, so it's hard to see, but the main thing I'd like to show about this picture is the more color you see on there, the better. The more square yardage that we're hitting the surface of the streets, in this case, is good. And that's what we need to do to keep that performance index of 12 or higher, around that 12 RSL for our total inventory. So this gives you an idea where you will be seeing that work. You can see the legend there of the type of work that we're doing. So a lot of preservation type of treatments in there when you're talking about the chip seals, slurry seals. And then you start getting into the overlays, that blue. Now we're talking about $15 a square yard. So when you start talking rehabilitation, instead of 3 to 4 when it comes to preservation, $3 to $4 a square yard, we're talking about 15. So you can see once you start going into rehab, put an overlay, our money goes a lot less distance than when we're doing preservation treatments. So when talking about preservation maintenance, we have a lot of those going on. A lot of it will be in the spring. A lot of our preservation maintenance, there's certain times of the year you want to do it. You don't want to do it in the heat of the summer right now, and you don't want to do it when it's too cold. So a lot of our preservation maintenance you'll see done in the fall and in the spring. And in this case, we have a lot of the preservation maintenance going on in the spring because we have a lot of rehabilitation projects and reconstruction that we're looking at this fall and this winter. So that's why you'll see a lot of the preservation maintenance in the spring. However, on the chip seal on the bottom, we're working on a treatment for Meridian from Lost Dutchman up to McKellips. That street's very bad condition right now. We're trying to work with MDOT, Maricopa County, for their side of Meridian. So that is looking like a possible project this fall. So that's be the only one that might be this fall and not necessarily all done in the spring of 2024. And as I mentioned, rehabilitation, this is an overlay project, so we do have one smaller subdivision, and this is a subdivision that's east of Ironwood, south of Apache Trail, north of Broadway. And in preparation for some future overlay, and I mentioned to you that the cost for an overlay is about that $15 a square yard. Many of you drive Broadway, Superstition Boulevard, Apache Trail. All that square yardage is coming up here very soon for overlay, $15 a square yard. Last time we did Apache Trail, it was close to $2 million just for that 2.5 mile stretch from Meridian past Phelps to Idaho. So we have some large major arterials that are reaching that point of rehabilitation. So one challenge here in the near future here is that 1.7 million street sales tax could only go so far when it comes to preservation maintenance. When you start getting into rehabilitation and reconstruction, it doesn't go too far. So that is going to be a challenge for us, for the city here in the next few years when we're looking to having to rehabilitate Broadway, Superstition, portions of Ironwood, and Apache Trail and Old West Highway. And in preparation for overlay, that triggers the ADA improvements. So we're talking about not just rehabilitation of pavement, but we're talking about some of the civil, the concrete work when it comes to the sidewalks and ramps that per law we have to improve at that time when we do a rehabilitation. So we'll be doing some of those ramps along Broadway this year in anticipation of starting that overlay work on Broadway next fiscal year and the year after. And to finalize out the street maintenance, we got these reconstruction projects. So the next one we're going to be turning our sights on is the Tomahawk Road from Broadway to Superstition. A lot of you have probably seen the condition of that road. We've had a lot of potholes, a lot of base failures occurring over the last few years along that stretch. Some of you may ask about, hey, what about that last portion of Lost Dutchman? Yes, we're hoping to get back and do that last phase of Lost Dutchman from Meridian over to Ironwood next year. We just have some right-of-way that we're trying to acquire first that we need to continue with the bike lanes that we're installing up on Lost Dutchman. So that's why we're pulling off Lost Dutchman, going to Tomahawk with the intent to get the Lost Dutchman back next year. And then Haven Hollow is a subdivision that we started some work in this year with some curb gutter and paving on the north side of that subdivision, and that's north of Apache Trail, west of Delaware, south of Superstition, so just west of Delaware, north of Apache Trail. So we have a couple roads in there yet. We need to redo the pavement, so we're looking to reconstruct that there this winter, spring into 2024. All right, I think that rounds out the maintenance, and I definitely will be available for any questions on maintenance, but I'll ask Ted up here, and he could give you an overview of our capital improvement projects, which again is more of that new construction, not necessarily maintenance related, but capacity and new construction.
Thank you, Shane. Highlighted for this fiscal year are some projects. First off is Old West Highways. The project has had some setbacks. We've put it out to bid twice. First one, no bidders. Second time, it came in over budget. So we're looking with MAG and ADOT to see if we can scale back the projects and possibly put sidewalks only on the south side of it. The Broadway storm drain extension, folks know that we have a drainage issue on Ocotillo, and it impacts the road, the shoulders, and some houses there. So the project is to put a storm drain system down the side of it and tie it into a existing storm drain on Broadway. The Apache Trail median curb installation, we've had a series of projects where we've done some work in the median. We have another section to do. It should be our last one, and we will have the sections of Apache Trail medians completed and in much better aesthetic appeal to it. That project wouldn't probably start until probably this fall sometime. The Winchester Storm Drain project is another fairly large project. I think that one is about $1.6 million. That one we're hoping to get out to the bid this fall. Another project that's very close to this facility that you'll see a lot of work on is the stormwater detention right here just south of this roundabout. Project timeline would probably be about November, hopefully. It's about a $6 million project, and our partner is Pinal County Flood Control District. It's going to be a fairly large project. Hopefully we have it done this fiscal year. Rounding out would be Delaware Drive Improvement Project. It's again another drainage related project. There's been a series of projects on Delaware, and it will be another section of that project. In the design phase, we got the Apache Trail Superstition Boulevard street lighting. street lighting facilities will be a part of that. The Ironwood shoulder widening project is a project we've been scoping for quite some time. We're still in the design phase. It's getting closer to completion, probably be about 2 years out before we put it out to bid. The Ironwood Drive capacity improvement is also another project we've been working on for some time. It may be a few years out beyond that. One of the bigger projects that we have focused on as a department is the Weeks Wash Regional Detention Project. That one's very important to us. We hope to hear back from our federal grants that we applied in August, and it'll probably be about 40% of 50% of the cost of the project. So we're going to be looking for other alternative funding mechanism, reaching out to some partners, seeing how we could build this project. Just give an idea, the project's somewhere around $90 to $100 million. It's like 1.4 million cubic yards of material, soil and rock moving. Palm Wash is another project we're scoping. That one we've got change a little bit in our how we're going to present it. We know we have some funding challenges, and what we're looking for on this one is just get an engineer to give us some an idea how best we could handle the water that crosses 16th Avenue. We know at some point it may impact the neighborhoods in that area. Any questions for either Shane or I regarding the capital improvement or street maintenance projects?
Any questions? Any questions over here? Don't see any questions.
I want to add one clarification here real quick, and this is not Ted's fault because I downloaded him with a lot of information really quick. And at Apache Trail Median and Curb, we're on a phase 4 that was to happen last year, and I talked to you about some projects get delayed and don't get done. That was one that didn't get done last year because of scheduling conflicts with the contractor. So we'll have phase 4 this year, but we'll have one more phase going into next year. So just let you know in case you heard us say that we'll get a last phase. We will probably have next phase next year as well.
Okay.
Thanks, Shane.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
And we'd now like to invite Al Bravo up for current events.
Not sure how to follow all those streets.
Happiness.
That's an awful album. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Al Bravo, Public Information Officer for the City of Apache Junction. A couple of things to mention this evening. As Council Member Solar mentioned earlier, we did get a chance to cut the ribbon, so to speak, on renovations over at Animal Control, which is on Baseline, just east of Idaho. For those of you who are looking for a pet, forever pet, this is the place to come. And really, this is the culmination of a lot of work. There has been a lot of work done over there at Animal Control over the years to really improve that facility. You know, it's the only one you can go to if you're up here. If we don't have this facility, you have to go to Florence. If we don't have this facility and you're on the other side of Meridian, you have to go all the way down into West Mesa. That's as close as you can get. So Animal Control, a very, very important part of our community, and of course, as many of you know, people in this community really, really love their animals. But as you can see, some of the facility over there on Baseline has kind of taken a little bit of time and taken a little bit of age, and so this is what it looked like about a month ago, and this is what it looks like now, and it is a really, really nice renovation that they did. So it was nice to acknowledge all the folks that made that possible, and I know all of the staff, not a very big staff, I will tell you, at Apache Junction Animal Control will tell you how thankful they are for all the support from the police department and the city to make everything happen. And like I said, if you're looking for your forever friend, they're probably right there right now, and that's that time. We do want to thank all the folks who were involved in 4th of July. I wanted to make sure that didn't get lost in our delay, since, of course, we haven't met as a council in the last month, but in between there was our nation's birthday. We celebrated over at Superstition Shadows Park, and we hope anybody who came out had a really good time. A lot of work goes into making that happen every year, and of course, as it is Parks Month, we can also acknowledge the Parks and Recreation Department for putting on a great show on the night of July 4th. I did want to acknowledge, by the way, that our learned mayor was reading to kids. And Mayor, can you remember what the book was?
Yeah, it's Little Black, a Pony. It's one of the ones that was written by Walter Farley. It's a first grade reader that we used to hand out to first graders, and we had a lot of interaction with the kids over this book.
Got to make sure you read. And speaking of reading, Books and Brews this week is on Thursday night. That's our library program that we have over at the Handlebar, about 6:30 on the third Thursday of every month through the summer and into October, I believe, is how long they're going to go. It's essentially a book club, but in a little bit different setting, because it's over at the Handlebar, which of course is on Apache Trail. So you're all welcome to join us for that. We also have parks programs over at the Superstition Shadows Aquatic Center. That's coming up in August and September. You can find all of this information on the city's homepage, as always, ApacheJunctionAZ.gov. You can also, of course, go to our Facebook page. We also have a Twitter account, an Instagram account. Make sure you always look for that. And all of this information, stuff that's going on at the council level and things that are happening in the city, as well as important news, is always in our newsletter. Make sure you do sign up for that. Comes out every Thursday. And those are your announcements for July the 18th, 2023.
Thank you.
That's it. Concludes my report, Mayor.
All right. New business, presentation and discussion on procurement of new and replacement fleet vehicles. Mr. Wolf.
Doing great, Al.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Ted Wolf, Public Works Director. Tonight it's a quick presentation and discussion regarding the planned purchase of the vehicles for this fiscal year. For general fund, we've got, as you can see, quite a bit of police department related vehicles. Most of them highlighted are additions to the fleet. As you know, the police department is expanding with their number of officers, and we have to correspondingly increase the number of vehicles to match that. One thing to highlight and note is the prisoner transport van. It's a replacement. It was intended to be purchased last fiscal year, but because of unavailability, we rolled it into this year. So we intend to get the vehicle this fiscal year. Another general fund vehicles will be for Parks and Recs. As highlighted, you can see there were some replacement vehicles. There is one vehicle that is also a rollover, similar in nature to the prisoner van. So for the general fund departments, which are police department and then Parks and Recs, about $2.2 million for this fiscal year. It was planned and budgeted in our budget. For HERF, which is Public Works, for highway user revenue funds, we have a couple vehicles there. A couple of highlighted ones of note would be the bucket truck and the sign truck. Those are some big ones. That sign truck is a rollover from the previous fiscal year. We're also adding a sweeper to our fleet. That is through the MAG program, and we pay about 5.8% of the cost. So even though the sweeper itself costs quite a bunch, our proportion is only 5.8%. The HERF expenditure for this planned budget year is about $589,000. So the staff recommendation is, the staff recommends the purchase of general fund and highway user revenue fund vehicles with lighting and equipment in the amount of $2,819,084. The city will be using the State of Arizona Cooperative Contract Number CTR 059323 with Santan Ford and CTR 041810 with Freightliner. The lighting and equipment would be through the City of Tempe Cooperative Contract Number T21-003-002. Any questions?
Mayor,
Yes.
on the police vehicles, are we still strictly staying with Fords, especially undercover vehicles? Because when you stay with one brand and you're trying to do undercover work, it's very difficult if you have all the same type of vehicle, all the same make of vehicle. It doesn't matter what the colors are. Like I said before, I could tell you, my neighbors saw a car turned down my cul-de-sac and said, "Oh, here comes the police." It was an unmarked vehicle driven by Tom Parker, because they know that everybody drives Fords. So are we still sticking with that game plan of just Fords right now?
Yeah, we are. That is the plan. I know there have been some discussions of undercover, if we could do something different with that.
Right.
But right now, we're planning to still stay with Ford Motor Company.
All right, something to look into, because it kind of puts them behind the 8 ball with the bad guys.
Right. It does.
All right.
Your Honor,
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Yes.
what's the age class on most of these police vehicles? Because, I see all of them under 100,000 miles, and all listed as poor condition.
If I had to make a guess, I think most of them are about 7 years old, would be but they get a lot of miles on them. And they're used because of police pursuits and whatnot. They have a lot of heavy use and the type of use that they do receive. So between the repairs, the miles and the age, and when we look at the metrics and our formula and our procurement, how we arrive at it, they're in poor condition.
And are the vehicles sent off for auction to be
Yes.
disposed of? And before they're sent off, are they stripped of any salvageable parts that we can reuse on some of the newer vehicles?
Yes, if they're police department vehicles, yes, they're stripped of anything that we could reuse, and then the vehicles are sent to Sierra auctions in
Sierra,
Phoenix.
yeah. They're the biggest one. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. This one?
That's just discussion.
Your Honor, this is the,
just
right, so this is
discussion,
just
right?
discussion tonight. We'll come back in a couple weeks and
Okay. All right. Thank you. Presentation, discussion, consideration of approval of agreement with, for replacement of upgrade lighting at Prospector Park. Liz. Veregy? What's the company's name?
Veregy?
Veregy?
Good evening, Mayor Wilson, members of council, Liz Lingenbach, Parks and Recreation Director. And tonight, I am here to talk with you a little bit about, or to discuss our proposed contract to Veregy, the associated vendor that installs Musco manufactured lighting for two of our sports fields at Prospector Park. And then we are hopeful to answer any questions tonight, and then also have it up for consideration for award of contract. For the last 7 years, Public Works and Parks have evaluated energy-saving options throughout the city. Sports field lighting is a large component of all of that. This picture here is actually our neighboring community, Queen Creek. Musco was installed here at Mansell Carter Oasis Park, and this is kind of the idea of what the dark sky friendlier type of lighting is, as well as lighting that is ideal for a lot of our sports settings. Prospector Park, a little bit of background. So it was one of the first facilities that you saw in our video tonight for Parks and Rec Month. It's one of our oldest facilities. Most of our sports fields were built 1985 to 1990, and while it was the best lighting at the time, whenever these were built, all lighting was metal halide with little to no shielding. And just over time, in the last decade, we've had a lot more energy efficient lighting, as well as more friendlier for dark sky lighting that's developed in this last 10 years or so. Our Little League complex was one of our first that we converted to LED lighting in 2019. That was with a Diamondbacks partnered grant. And then we have included in our department CIP, along with the CIP that Finance developed, a goal to phase all of our fields to LED lighting for various reasons, and we'll kind of go into that here quickly. Couple of, in addition to energy efficiency, which is one of our primary reasons for wanting to upgrade our lighting, as well as just the condition and the age of some of our poles at our oldest facility, our department has worked in recent years to look at ways to preserve the dark sky. So we get a lot of comments, especially in our northern part of our community, where it's a lot of our individuals who are out there, they want to live a little farther away from the night lights, and they want to, be able to enjoy the night sky, living out a little bit more in the outdoors. And so we get a lot of complaints out there about the lighting that we have at Prospector Park and the rodeo grounds. And so that's definitely been in our thinking over the last few years as we looked at lighting that we wanted to implement. If you notice here, these are two facilities that kind of demonstrate the effect of the halide metal lighting that's out there currently. It has a lot of glare. If you want to look out there, you're going to see these great big, blinding globes out there when you're trying to enjoy your time. What the concept of the newer shielded lighting, in addition to just being really much more energy efficient, you can see there's a big difference in what you can see with the eye, either from afar, as well as those individuals who are on the playing field. And so this park here, this was a park in Sahuarita that the International Dark Sky Association actually used to create their basis of criteria for dark sky friendly lighting program. And definitely a good model that we want to be looking at, especially again in that northern part of our community. In addition to reducing that glare that's out there, it also makes the site, it's maximized for player ability to be able to see the ball, to be able to have maximum playability of those fields. So this Prospector Park LED relight project, the key components, some of the main reasons why we've selected Musco lighting, we have been doing a lot of research, as I said, for about 7 years. It is a very costly project, and I know you've all looked at the contract and the staff report. We've really struggled over the years to think about how we're going to afford that, but we have to start at some point in time. Musco Lighting is one of the premier lighting providers. They do lighting for about 80% of the market, particularly for sports fields. Some of our biggest decision makers in this, I'll explain a little bit as we go through the presentation, but as part of the contract, we will be demoing, replacing 9 of our light poles that are out here. And so we are only doing fields 1 and 2 this year. They were the first fields that were built in 1985, so they're our oldest fields. In addition, at the time, the poles and the way that those poles were structured long ago, just over time, they're much more susceptible to some of the rusting at the bottom. The way that they are anchored is a little bit more challenging for us. We actually lost one of our poles in one of our major windstorms around this time last year and had to replace that. Thankfully, it fell over in an area where there wasn't anybody around. But these poles are definitely at a compromised state right now that we really want to make sure that we are putting our best effort to get them replaced. And so all of the design and the mechanisms that we are using in this contract are to make sure that we have the best possible poles as well as lighting as we move forward. And we did replace one of the poles. We did not get it with all the things that we need for our dark sky friendly and all of the shielding that we needed at the time. We did an emergency purchase to replace that one pole so that we could continue with all of our leagues and all of the programs that go on out there, knowing that as part of our CIP, we would be replacing soon. We wanted to make sure, though, that we had a pole that was going to be similar to everything else that we would be proposing in the next year. Energy efficiency, so these are all designed to be LED energy efficient light fixtures. So we realize, so at our Little League facility, we're realizing about a 45% reduction in our energy bills at that site. And so that is, again, one of the #1 reasons why we are looking at these types of lighting. I think that's going to be a huge, over time, that kind of pays for the actual investment in this product. In addition, these are designed to meet Class 3 level lighting, which is required through the Little League standards as well as IES, Illuminating Engineering Society standards. The other thing that is really phenomenal about the Musco product, so they have what's called the TLC for LED with their patented ball tracker technology, and I didn't mention it earlier, but I do have Dee Smith with us from Musco, so if you have any questions at the end that you want to know any more details, or you have something a little more technical than my mind can share with you, he's here to answer any questions as well. But ultimately, this technology, along with their patented ball tracker technology, players can enjoy the field of view that is much higher definition, tracks the entire flight of the ball, so no glare in the physical typical line of sight, which is also a safer experience for those individuals. Ball tracker uses a fraction of the light that affects sky glow compared to other lighting, making it better for players, neighbors, and as well as the night sky. So it's something that we wanted to definitely pair up in this project. As long as we have to do this for replacing lighting for wear and tear and age and this energy efficiency, we really want to take this opportunity to make sure that we're having a product that is going to help us to achieve some of our dark sky friendly goals. As I said, the dark sky movement has become more and more prevalent over the last several years. I've had the opportunity to attend several sessions at our national conference, as well as worked closely with the IDA, the International Dark Sky Association, in looking at other ways that our community can embrace, a more friendly dark sky, especially with the environment that we live in. We're so close to open space and mountains that we really want to preserve that in this area. And so knowing that we would be phasing out our old technology light poles over the years, we definitely wanted to make sure that we are incorporating some of these other components as we did so. Lastly, one of the great features is the remote control functionality and the monitoring system that comes with Musco. So currently at the Little League complex, we already have that remote control capability. We're able to pair our reservation software system. It is integrated with the Musco app and with the technology in the lighting system, so that way lights are turned on and off automatically according to when they're reserved. Additionally, our park rangers have a mobile app that allows them to turn them on at will or turn them off if somebody's not going to show up for a practice or for a game. It has saved on staff time tremendously. It's a major thing so that our rangers can be in other places and they're not going from field to field to turn on lights and turn lights back off again when they're done. The other component of that is that Musco has a monitoring system, so that is built into the system there at the park. And so they are able to see when a system is starting to fail, when there's any kinds of problems, and are able to send out a tech that goes and handles that immediately. This lighting, and I might have it listed somewhere else too, but it comes with a 25-year guaranteed warranty, so all maintenance is covered for the next 25 years. That's another major component of why we are selecting this. We spend a ton of money on these existing lights, bringing out electricians, having downtime for Little League and other agencies whenever things aren't working so well. We're super excited to be able to take that off of the plate of our maintenance staff, and it will be completely included for the next 25 years with no cost to us. Just so you can kind of understand, so while this is for this project is Prospector Park, we are phasing it so that we're doing a couple of sets of lights every single year. As I said, Field 1 and 2, which are the lower fields closest to Idaho, they are our oldest fields and the most compromised of our poles, so that is our priority. And I just kind of left this diagram in here so that you could kind of understand what we are replacing. All of these outfield lights, they only light up the field. All of the blue lights, though, are lights with back-to-back lighting fixtures on them, so we can get more bang for the buck. The other part about this project is that in addition to lighting Field 1 and 2, this project does fund the other side, the back side of the light, so that way at least half of the, well, a third of next year's project for Field 3 and 4 is already paid for in this project, and already, that's why this one is quite a bit higher than what we anticipate every year having to be able to do. Again, we can answer any questions you want to, but I just wanted to identify that everything that's here on this is designed for the dark sky friendly certification that we are applying for, and that will all be approved and finalized prior to manufacturing and everything going out. But there's a lot of factors that Musco has to put into their design elements to share with the IDA, so that way they can approve that designation that we would be receiving. This is a 150-foot offset. So this is a spill line where everything beyond that has some different regulations that IDA has. So we're really excited about that. As you saw in many of the pictures, we're able to really have a lot less glare and a lot less lighting out on the whole project. So just really quickly in summary, the total cost is $841,470. That includes a 5% owner-controlled contingency. We don't anticipate needing to be able to use that extra 40,000-ish that's in there for the contingency, but it's there just in case we run into some issues, and we just like to carry that every year in a project, so that way we have a little bit of room. But it is completely owner-controlled, so it's not like it can just be for whatever somebody wants it to be. It includes dark sky-friendly sports field requirements, includes backside lighting on 4 poles for the fields 3 and 4. So in addition to what we're getting for field 1 and 2 immediately, already the lights will be retrofitted on the backside. That will help with next year's project for field 3 and 4. Musco's rule of thumb is that they are seeing a 40% to 70% reduction in electrical costs annually. It just really depends on the facility and the lighting and kind of what was being used before. Like I said, we see about a 45% reduction already at Little League Complex. This site has a whole lot more lighting, much bigger fields. We anticipate that to be a little bit more, but we'll be able to share that whenever we bring this back again in the future. We're eliminating maintenance costs for the next 25 years on these fields. That's huge for us right now. And then the reason we are bringing it to this meeting, we had hoped to be able to share it at the first meeting in July as a work session, unfortunately, because we didn't have that one. We are sharing today. We're hopeful to do discussion, and if you feel comfortable, we are hoping that you would consider awarding contract, so that way we can meet some of our goals. So we do know that our facilities are utilized all year round. October is our goal, and so we really do have kind of a timing is of the essence this year, and so that's what we'll be talking about tonight and seeing if we can manage that. But our anticipated install, if everything goes smoothly here, is October during our overseeding time is really the ideal time because fields are already shut down for that month. So finally, staff recommends award of contract to Veregy to replace and upgrade the lighting at the Prospector Park softball complex to energy efficient and dark sky friendly Musco lighting in an amount not to exceed $841,000 and $841,470. And I am happy to answer any questions that you might have, and also bring up D if there's anything technical that you would like to discuss.
I have one.
Okay.
With the remote, the ones that are back to back, you can control those independently?
Yes, so all of our lighting, so we will be able to hook up that technology so that way we can manage all of that lighting as well. Yes.
Anyone else over there? How about over here?
Your Honor.
Yes.
So Liz, this is not, the power for these is not solar. It's
No, not for sports lighting. It does take a lot more energy, and yes, these ones are not solar powered like our dog park.
okay. Is there any kind of like battery backup for these at all, or do we just, if there's a power failure, they just goes, and then the ball players are done for the day? Or?
Yeah, I mean that could happen, but yeah, that rarely happens in our leagues. It's really more usually a failure of old lighting and some different things like that. But no, and all of this includes all of the rewiring, all of that kind of stuff, making sure that everything is good and in order for the lighting.
Okay, thanks.
Yes?
So I noticed that the contract calls for removal, 12 inches below ground, disperse the spoils, and put in new conduits, new wire, new poles. Are we responsible for the old poles, for disposal of them? Are we scrapping them? Are we what, you know?
Yep, so good question. All of that is part of the contract, and so the vendor will be takes care of all of that. The city will not be handling any of those portions of the project. It's all included.
Okay. And so can I get a motion for
Your Honor,
moving forward? Yes.
I move that the construction agreement with Veregy through the One Government Procurement Alliance Cooperative Contract Number 22-11 PV-08 to replace and upgrade lighting at Prospector Park Softball Complex to energy efficient and dark sky friendly lighting in the amount not to exceed $841,470 be approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call?
Councilmember Nesser,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Cross,
Yes.
Councilmember Heck,
Yes,
Councilmember Soller,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schroeder.
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
Motion passes, Your Honor.
Bright lighting. Okay, call to the public. I'd like to remind everyone the call of the public is a courtesy, is not required by law. It's a time for the public to express requests, communications, comments, and suggestions. Requests to speak forms must have been completed and handed to the city clerk before the end of the city manager's report. All issues will be presented in a professional manner without personal attacks. Under the open meeting law, the council cannot engage in discussions on the issues presented, but may respond to criticism and may direct staff to follow up with speaker directly or place the matter on a future agenda for discussion. There is a 3-minute time limit for each speaker, and I've got several here. Denise Austin? That's me. Okay. Hold a second.
Well, yeah,
Well, so we put it,
we're televising, so.
Just for the record.
There you go.
name and
My name is Denise Austin, and I live in the streets. And it's very difficult because there's nowhere for us to go. And I was in Mesa at cooling stations, and they were awesome. And then I looked up, and I came out here because I have court next week, so I have to be out here. I came all the way from Banner Baywood on my scooter to the Apache Junction cooling station, which was the Salvation Army. I get there, and you couldn't even get a cold drink of water. The refrigerators were broke. There was no mister. There was absolutely nothing there. And I just want to know why are they on the list if you can't even get a cold drink of water? And I couldn't go anywhere else because I had to charge. You know, that was quite the truck on the mobility scooter. And there's the double standards that are out there. A car can park in the street, put a tent over their car, and sleep in the streets. I cannot pull up next to them in my car and put a bedding down and go to sleep. It's called urban camping. Well, they're in their cars doing the same thing, but I can't. What's wrong with that picture? You know, they closed the bathrooms at the park. I understand there's a lot of kids destroying things. I understand that. But I deserve to wash my hands with soap. I can't even get soap in the bathrooms. They won't put it in there. They close it 2 hours before the park even closes. And then we get a ticket if we go to the bathroom in the streets. You know, it's just very hard to live out here. It's hot. And the cooling stations in Mesa had cots. Now, I understand I can go to the library, but I can't sit down on the floor with my dog. I can't lay down and take a nap. The other cooling station, I got to sit in the office. You know, and I was grateful for it. It was hot. But there's got to be something that can be done about us out here. It's hot. The multi-generation center, there's room in there, huge room. You can't open it up to us so we can get in there and cool off. It's only fair. You know, I didn't mean to be homeless. My house burned down. Everybody's one paycheck away from right here. Something happened, a 62-year-old woman on disability, and I'm out in the streets. And the park recreational people, they're awesome. I mean, some of the rangers are just awesome, but they can't do anything. You know, they say the city cops let them people sleep out there. I don't understand what the difference is between me and that car. I'm gonna get a ticket and go to jail because I can't lay down and go to sleep at night. That's sad. It's sad. There's just got to be something that can be done. Open up the park and let us sleep in the grass. It's like a pillow top. It's like a mattress, you know? That's all I got, the double standards. Homeless don't rub off. If I touch you, you won't become homeless, I promise.
Jane Brown.
Hi, I'm Jane Brown, and Parks and Recreation is wonderful. The dog park is wonderful. The dog park is open from 6 in the morning when it's 88 degrees to 10 o'clock at night when it's still over 100. The best hours to be at the dog park are basically from 6 a.m. to 11. On Monday and Thursday, the dog park is closed from 6 a.m. till 1. That represents 28% of the best hours lost. So I would ask Parks and Recreation to flip it. Do maintenance on Monday and Thursday in the afternoons so the dogs can be there in the morning. And one other little thing that, I live on a gravel road, and I'm very grateful for it because I'm basically 15 to 30 degrees cooler than other people. But the dog park, when the air is 85, the pavement is 125. And it would be nice to have signs posted for people to make them realize you have to carry your dog to the park at this time of year, no matter what time it is. That pavement is like 150 degrees. And if you put your hand down there, you won't even want to touch it. And I would love to see it be a gravel parking lot or a gravel drop-off, maybe, for people with dogs. You know, you like valet your dog. So anyway, thank you.
Donna Carr.
Donna Carr, an Apache Junction resident. I know the whole thing about going dark, and I was thinking maybe AJ just didn't want to pay for streetlights. But the fact of the matter is, I do agree with the going dark, but I think you need to replace all the reflectors on Apache Trail and replace the reflectors on Old West Highway so that people can more or less stay in their lane, especially when it rains. Because even when the roads were re-tarred last time, you still couldn't see the lines on the road most of the time. And this is sort of a off-the-wall question, but if I was to put a block wall in front of my house, could I put it like 2 feet back from the street? I'm pretty sure I already know the answer. The answer is no. But if I bring in lots of tax dollars, can I then do it? Because on Delaware, they have done it. They're 2 feet back. They've been that way for a long time. You try to go down Virginia, and when you reach Delaware, you can't see down the road unless you're halfway out in the street. And then people are leaning on their horns because you're halfway out in the street. Something needs to be done about it. They need to take down that section of block wall. I mean, you're supposed to be 5 feet back from the sidewalk, not 2 feet back from the road. That's all I have to say.
George Martinez?
Hello, folks. Thanks for having me back today. I was here yesterday. It's kind of a continuation of a discussion that you guys had yesterday. It all started off with me getting a citation for having 2 RVs in my property, an acre and a quarter.
Their address, please.
What's that?
Address.
At 1075 South Cortez Road.
Thank you.
So basically, and I know there's a big meeting on August 1st, but I just wanted to come today and kind of, after hearing the discussion yesterday, I wanted to kind of narrow it down a little bit more. For example, Mr. Schroeder, you mentioned that it didn't apply to too many people. It actually does. And just to give you an idea, just on the way out here, I kind of thought about it, and I was kind of, I'm running on 2 hours of sleep. So I woke up and I'm coming over here, and I noticed that there's at least 15 houses just from Cortez to here that it will be affected because of the 2 RV rule. The reason I have 2 RVs, and I think I know why this rule was made, so you don't have 15 RVs renting it out to people, et cetera. I think, anyway, that's the reason. I have a toy hauler, which I carry my quads and dirt bikes and so forth, in my race car. The whole family gets together. It's a 34-footer, bigger RV. And then I have a little tiny one from here to the door for me and my wife and the dog. If I'm going somewhere and I'm not taking anything, I'm taking the little one. Just like you wouldn't take your Suburban to go to the grocery store if you don't need it. It's kind of the same thing. And that's why I think that if you guys can just look at this rule again, in due time and make some changes to it. I'm not opposed to it. I understand why it was made in the first place. I'm just thinking that, about an acre and a quarter in Apache Junction so that I can have 2 RVs if I want. I have an acre and a quarter. My house is not that big. Some of the toys that you saw up there in the pictures yesterday, they're beautiful. Mine are not that grand. I don't have that kind of money. They're smaller, but they serve their purpose. Just like people have, every household has 1, 2, or 3 cars, a truck, small car, medium car, whatever it is. It's the same reason that I have that. So anyway, I just want to thank you for the time, and I appreciate you looking into that. Thank you.
Your Honor, may I respond to that?
Well, we can do it at the end.
Oh, I thought that was the end.
No. Andrew Meek. Andre, okay.
Andre the Giant. Andre.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Andre, like the champagne. So, thank you, Councilman Cross, for your participation at Mesa Parks and Rec. That was pretty cool, setting that up for it. Now, I'd really like to see AJ Park and Rec do the same thing. We've got a facility that's right here in AJ. We had all these kids out there, 240 kids at one time. We volunteered. We had all our setup and everything like that. I ran the gold panning trough, and you couldn't get the kids away from it. So, talk to the museum, get the kids out there. It's all part of AJ. And Public Works, Lost Dutchman and Highway 88. What are we going to do? We've got a really bad corner there. It's not a parallel cross, it's an X there. And so when you going east and you look south, you can't see what's coming because you got fence and everything there. If you're coming west on Lost Dutchman, you can't see north because it's kind of like a hill and it's hard to see. that intersection either needs to be realigned so it's straight or, you know, a roundabout, but that requires the state's involvement with that. And, but, you know, it's, you know, gonna get bad again, because, you know, once you start getting traffic on there, Lost Dutchman backs way up, you know, up against 88, and people take their chances, or people can't see, and then booyah, we got an accident. So, you know, in Public Works planning, I'd like to see something planned of some sort, and, you know, the fences there need to be moved, you know, because you just can't see around them there on the corner, on either corner. Then, let's see what else we have. The 2 RV rule, real quick. You know, times have changed. Everybody has 2 RVs because they do different things. I have 2 RVs. One is a trailer that needs to be restored, and the other's a cab over camper. You know, you use a trailer when you're going out to a trailer park or something like, you use a cab over when you go into the lake to haul your boat. So, you know, that needs to be really looked at again, you know. And then as pointed out by a previous speaker, the homeless issue is still out of control. We cannot just sweep it under the rug. We got to keep on top of this, you know, for this lady to be sleeping in the street, and just like she said, house burns down, out of a home. Live paycheck to paycheck, something happens, out of a home. Did you know that even though that, you know, vouchers are offered, nobody takes advantage of them? You can't get a landlord to take them. So they're no good. Thank you.
All right.
So, yeah, in response to the previous speaker and Mr. Meek, with my comments about satisfying a portion of our population that's very small, the agenda item itself, I quote, to allow single-family lots with a minimum of 1.25 gross acres, 1 non-motorized horse trailer with integrated living quarters, or 1 motorized recreation vehicle with integrating horse trailer. We were discussing about horse trailers. We weren't discussing about, it evolved into RVs of any kind, but the agenda item that we were discussing was about horse trailers with integrated living quarters on it. So when I was referring to a small facet of our population, this is what I was referring to. Now, if we want to start and say, okay, and that we're just going to open up the floodgates to everything from the horse trailer to the toy hauler to the atypical pop-up camper, I would suggest when we do talk about this at the next work session to have that wording in the agenda item, because otherwise it's not the agenda item. So that is where my comments came in about the population and the portion, because the item discussing was about horse trailers. Thanks.
Anyone else? Can someone get together with her to refer her to some of the other locations?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Also,
Yes?
can we check on that block wall and the sight lanes to make sure that they're in conformance with our MAG standards?
Yep, we'll double check that, yeah.
Thank you. And the dog park, if it's possible to switch the hours around, I don't know. I know, you know, maintenance in the morning is a whole lot nicer to be doing in the morning, not at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when it's 115, so. But maybe in the wintertime, I don't know. Not that it makes a difference then, so. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you.